Someone shared a survey that Beijing Normal University conducted earlier this year, which shows that there are 600 million people in China with a monthly income below 1,090 yuan, and among them, 5.46 million have zero income, 220 million have a monthly income below 500 yuan, 420 million have a monthly income below 800 yuan, and 550 million people have a monthly income below 1,000 yuan, and 550 million people have a monthly income below 1,000 yuan. So basically this implies that the number of people in China who have a monthly income below 2,000 yuan is 964 million. Someone shared this chart, which shows the data of individual monthly income in China in 2019. It's clear that in the range of 1,500 to 2,000, there were around 963.9 million, which does match the data provided by Beijing Normal University. A netizen shared the list of events that took place in 2020 and said that these are the things that ordinary Chinese people feel proud of. The one that topped the list is when China successfully launched the first major interplanetary mission to Mars on July 23rd. The second was when Mr. Zhong Nanshan was awarded the highest honor of the state, the Medal of the Republic, by Chairman Xi Jinping. The third was in late June when the Chinese military was invited by Russia to join its Victory Day parade on Red Square. The fourth was the successful launch of the Beidou navigation satellite system, also known as BDS, which, according to the Chinese government, is China's largest space-based system. This happened on June 23rd. Number 6 on the list is the passage of the first ever civil code, which will be effective on January 1st of 2021. The civil code was adopted by the National People's Congress on May 28th. According to the Chinese government, the code is a massive piece of legislation. Its latest draft includes 1,260 articles. Some background information according to the National People's Congress Observer. A civil code is a codification of private laws that regulate property and personal rights, including laws on contracts, property, marriage, and torts. China's previous 4 attempts at one were all unsuccessful. The first 2 tries occurred in the 1950s and the 1960s, but were both derailed by political campaigns at the time. The NPC Standing Committee started anew in 1979 after China had just launched the market-oriented economic reforms, but the legislature dropped the project again, having concluded that China's rapid societal and economic transformations rendered the project unripe. The 4th attempt in the early 2000s was halted for similar reasons. The Communist Party ordered the current attempt at a civil code in 2014. The legislature then designed a 2-step process. It would first adopt the code's general part, a set of general principles of civil law, which the National People's Congress enacted as the general provision of the civil law in 2017. The legislature would then draft the remainder of the code, referred to as the separate parts. In August 2018, all the 6 separate parts were submitted to the NPC, which then reviewed one or more of them at 6 separate sessions thereafter. Last December, it combined the general part and the separate parts into a complete draft code and submitted it to this year's NPC session for final review. The next one on the list is the celebration of the 70th anniversary of the Korean War, or what China called the War of Resisting America and Aiding North Korea. Someone commented, "A sad reality is that many people feel pessimistic about their own future, but somehow, according to Beijing's propaganda, they feel incredibly optimistic about China's future and proudly share with others that this is my homeland." Someone shared this article titled, "More than $500 million worth of Australian coal is on a few dozen ships anchored off Chinese ports, and Australia is hoping that China will purchase them." But as many articles have shown that the real victims of Beijing's policy change toward Australia are the ordinary Chinese people themselves. Someone shared on Weibo that residents in Changsha City of Hunan Province have reported that many areas in the city have been experiencing power outages, and people's daily routines have been heavily impacted. Someone replied with a typical response given by the Chinese government to incidents like this, which said, The power outages came as a result of efforts to save electricity and meet the targets set forth by the central government. Someone replied, Beijing's ban on Australian coal directly caused an imbalance in power supply. Someone that seems to be living in mainland China replied, my friends have witnessed multiple traffic accidents, and all of those happened on the crosswalk. There were no street lights. It was extremely difficult to see the pedestrian. Someone replied, is there a possibility that some kind of experts will come out to say that using the elevator too much is not healthy, so restricting the use of electricity is actually a manifestation of the government's agenda to promote physical well-being? Someone replied, after Beijing banned imports of coal from Australia, it signed a 1.5 billion thermal coal deal with Indonesia. The trade deal was signed by the Indonesian Coal Mining Association and the China Coal Transportation and Distribution Association. China is clearly doing this to close the gap in demands for power supply. Someone shared about the recent news regarding a leak of a list of Communist Party members being employed by multinational corporations and government agencies around the world, which suggests how essentially Beijing has infiltrated all aspects of Western society. This leak is essentially adding up to existing evidence regarding the CCP's global influence operations, and it's long overdue for the Western world to wake up and combat the CCP challenge. Someone shared this interview that lawyer Lin Wood did with NTD earlier this week, in which he talked about why he believed the Chinese government is behind the massive voter fraud in this year's elections.
China interfered with our national election. I believe that's an act of war. When our country, Democrats and Republicans, realize that our common foe is China, and this country will fight for its freedom, and this country will defeat communist China. The United States of America will never be ruled by communism.
Do you have specific evidence of China's not just involvement, but of any wrongdoing?
The Dominion machines, we've tracked it. That company is owned in large part through subsidiaries that are financed by the communist China. We also have strong evidence that would indicate that paper ballots were brought in through Mexico. They were printed in China. We love the Chinese people who are oppressed, those that want democracy, those that want freedom of religion. But the Chinese Communist Party is oppressive, it's ruthless, it's evil, is not going to be the type of government that the United States of America is ever going to allow to be in this country.
Child, we will bring you home. You'll be a flower that sees the spring. Soon a dove flying high.